We're beginning the 17th chapter today. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. On the third day of Pongal, the harvest festival, I positioned myself at the shop window and with the arrogance of the anthropologist observed holiday crowds fight their way through packed streets and sidewalks, struggling with plastic bags stuffed with food packets, sweet boxes, and gifts. Doorways of houses, huts, shanties, and shops, including, Home Depot, the bookstore I'm working at, were adorned with strings of mango leaves and garlands of marigolds. On doorsteps, ingenious, intricate patterns based on a grid of dots, columns, were skillfully outlined in rice flour, then filled in with colored powders, the whole representing happiness, wealth, and the cosmos. The overall air of celebration was in part due to the grand opening of the Gerhardt Green Industrial Park that year. A blessing from the gods, an ebullient, new word for me, chief minister proclaimed at the ribbon cutting. No one, not even the government, questioned the plant's purpose. All admired the neat metal buildings painted a sober sage green, oozing with pipes and ducts. All agreed that the American-style asphalt parking lots in particular, with their precise white striping and concrete curb stops, symbolized that leap into modernity that they craved. The day had been set aside by the owner of Home Depot and my Sanskrit teacher, Miss Nandi, for a temple visit where a special ceremony to benefit Ganesha, now a plump, boisterous little boy, had been arranged. He was up at dawn stirring another pot of Pongal, a mess of rice, milk, jaggery, raisins, and nuts, which he had been feeding Ganesha in copious amounts. Well, if she continues like that, Ganesha is really going to turn into an elephant. Have you all had jaggery? It is a delicious form of natural sugar. Childhood diabetes is rampant in this country, I warned her, but she ignored me and continued stirring the pot. Muthu arrived mid-morning from Chennai in a red silk shirt and a dhoti worn in the manner of the men in the south called a veshti, yards of muslin, how do you pronounce that? Wrapped and tucked neatly to one side. Over one shoulder was a starched and folded shawl, the angavastram. Before I could tell him how handsome he looked, Miss Nandi dispatched him to buy sweets and flowers for the offering and insisted that he take a delighted Ganesha, who allowed himself to be squeezed into the despised black pram. The muslin, is that it? Muslin. Thank you, Jack. You love jaggery, Stevie G. Me too. I would not go to the temple with them. Temples were places of transactions between humans and gods. What business would I conduct in a temple? From whom could I beg that my passport be returned to me so I could get away, go back to Connecticut, New York City, London, magical names as distant to me as the stars? I had nothing to offer the gods and their priests. My prayers would not be heard. I would have to make do with the view from my window. For the better part of the previous month, clothing stores, jewelers, sweet shops, and toy stores had been filled with the comings and goings of customers preparing for the 4-day festival. Through shop windows I caught glimpses of shimmering silks and satins spread on a wide platform set on sawhorses. I longed for something glittery and soft to feel against my skin, something that would instantly convert my current sexless beanstalk figure into a recognizable human being, a woman. One day I stepped into Sari Palace. Only to look was my intention. But that morning I had also slipped the fat roll of notes that Hari had thrown at me into my capacious shopping bag. I approached the skeptical salesgirl and asked to be shown a few samples. I peeled off a few notes of large denominations from the roll and named my price range. She flew into action. I fingered one silk sari after another, trying to imagine what Padma might choose for me. I fixed on a peacock blue silk as light as a feather, with a red and gold border. The tailor, in a hot windowless room at the rear, sewed the matching blouse within the hour. I asked him to stitch the pleats into the sari so I could slip it on like a dress, similar in construction to the fateful red sari of Pepe's Mad Goddess. The tailor shook his head in disapproval. The fabric was too fine, the flow would not be attractive. But at my insistence, he gave in and took on my unreasonable demands as a challenge. The final product was beautifully subtle and involved hidden zippers. I tried it on and glanced at his speckled mirror, afraid of the apparition I had become. I was an apparition of a Persian princess from the Arabian Nights. Arabian Nights. My skin was deeply tanned, and my hair had gone dark with a strand of blonde peering through here and there. Only my startling blue eyes remained unchanged. The tailor once again shook his head. He was proud of his work, but some part of him probably viewed his creation as sacrilege, a violation of sacred tradition, where the draping and undraping of a sari were in themselves ritualistic acts. My next stop was the world of gold, where, after 20 minutes of humorous bickering with a shopkeeper, I purchased a fine gold filigree necklace embedded with semi-precious stones, a pair of dangling earrings, and 2 bracelets. I spent my last paisa on a pair of gold sandals and a set of bindis for the forehead. Fully sated, I hid my loot in my cubicle, knowing that there would not be any occasion for me to wear any of it. I continued with my vicarious enjoyment of the parade passing by without the annoyance of having to be a part of it. The small boy with his coconut spread out on the busy sidewalk, always in danger of getting kicked aside, was ready for business. Then came the man on his skateboard, blocking the path of a plump woman in a showy red silk sari, her hair adorned with flowers, a large red dot on her forehead. In one hand was a basket of flowers, in the other a red plastic handbag. She clung to her handbag and made a valiant effort to get around the man. Finally, on the threat of his curses, she handed him a note. He grabbed it, winked at me, and wheeled away to trap his next customer. Curses and boons, Sid has noted during one of our talks, were forgotten weapons in most places and reserved for fairy tales, but not here. Were forgotten weapons in most places reserved for fairy tales, but not here. Pardon me. Where was Sid? I wondered. Earlier, I had used some of the cash from Hari to purchase a phone card and had placed a call to the ashram up in the mountains, but they had no news. Sid Saab came and went as he pleased, they said. Had Gerhard's men found him? I wondered. I scanned the crowd trying to spot Muthu and Ganesha, when suddenly there was Sid, head and shoulders above those around him, and determinedly Making his way to our door, I jumped up. It was time. It was finally time. He was coming for me. He would take me away, keep me safe, love me. I wanted to rush into the street to make sure it was him, but I needed to get dressed properly. I stood frozen with indecision when the door was flung open, and there he was, framed against the glare of the street. Like Muthu, he was dressed for the festival in a mustard raw silk shirt and an off-white veshti with a gold border. There were markings of ash and red powder on his forehead. Over one shoulder was the matching angavastram. Miss Nandi came out of her room. She had changed into a jazzy maroon and black checkered silk sari with a very wide solid gold border. Sid spoke to her rapidly in Tamil, which I should have understood, but at this crucial moment was unable to make out a single word. Just then, Muthu arrived, dragging the pram with a disgruntled Ganesha who was obscured by sweet boxes and flower garlands on his lap and all around him. Sid lifted Ganesha and handed him to me. "Hurry, get dressed. Him too. We need to look like a family on our way to a temple." Miss Nandi cast a guilty glance in my direction. She knew I had no proper clothes and seemed about to offer to lend me something. But I took Ganesha firmly by the arm and disappeared into my cubicle. In minutes we emerged beautifully resplendent. The three stared at us in wonder. I had slipped on my peacock blue silk sari, piled on the jewelry, tied my hair in a bun at the back, and pasted a decorative bindi on my forehead. I reached for a strand of thick jasmine from the pram and pinned it to my hair. Ganesha squirmed unhappily in a brocaded gold jacket and yellow silk pantaloons purchased for the occasion. I snatched the silver box containing red powder from the altar. "If we are to be a family, even a fake one," I said, "you'll have to do the honors." "We must hurry," Sid said impatiently. I refused to move until he rubbed a pinch of the red powder into the parting of my hair to indicate our marriage bond. Miss Nandi and Muthu gaped at my impudence. Foreshadowing. We'll pause our reading there for now. Thank you very much for listening with me. I look forward to seeing what kind of escapades they get up to as a family as we read together next time. Gotta leave you on a cliffhanger. But I love your prayers that our protagonist remember who she truly is. I pray too, dear Stevie G. And your beautiful innocence reminds me of the time that I would be up against the TV, encouraging SpongeBob and Timmy from Fairly Odd Parents to win, to succeed in their journeys. I love to feel a part of the script as if I had a play in affecting what outcomes would come. And I still believe I did, like the Mandela effect or switching timelines. Who knows? For as long as the rest of the book remains unread, in my opinion, it remains unwritten too. May our prayers shape the way the story is about to go. Thank you.